Continental is a TV show that is a spin-off of the four John Wick films. It was a three-part limited series which just wrapped up this past week. The show stars Colin Waddell as young Winston, who would be later played in the films by Ian McShane. As to the early rumblings of Winston trying to take over the Continental. He needs the help of Sharon, played by Oyemide Adugan, who is, of course, the younger version of Lance Reddick Sharon from the films. Winston, it has a full team of people as well, played by with Miles, Lou, Yen, and Lemmy. And they're trying to take over the Continental from Winston's own father, basically, Cormac O'Connor, who is played here by Mel Gibson. As I said, it's a three-part limited series. The shortest episode is 1 hour and 21 minutes, with the finale being the longest at 1 hour and 39 minutes. Welcome back to a brand new TV show review here on Max Talk. We're talking about the Continental from the world of John Wick. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new to the channel, I talk movies, TV shows, movie rankings, and box office. So please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new to the channel, comment down below. First of all, do you like the idea of John Wick spreading out? Do you think this franchise should just stop whenever Keanu stops? Let me know in the comment section down below. No spoilers, but again, it's not allowed to spoil anyway. Like the video, the thumbs up button, that's how you support this channel. So I was definitely not that excited for the show. I love the John Wick franchise. If you're new to the channel this past year, obviously I watched and reviewed John Wick Chapter 4. Before then, I had not seen the John Wick franchise until the week before John Wick 4 came out. I watched all three in a row into John Wick 4. So I have a ranking video on the channel here of the first 4 John Wicks and the separate review of the movie. And it's a really fun, inventive action franchise that obviously is revolutionary as it pertains to, combat, stunt work that a lot of action movies have missed over the last 20 years. And it's also just a beautifully directed franchise by Chad Stahelski, but it all centers around Keanu Reeves. And this is the first non-John Wick project without Keanu. We're getting the ballerina movie next year with Ana de Armas, where Keanu will cameo as John Wick, but that's, again, pretty much a non-John Wick film. It's a very interesting franchise because there's so much good world building that you really could make a show. But let's get into what my thoughts are on the Continental. So overall, it's just kind of a middle of the road show for me. It's a 3-part limited series, and it's kind of like its 3 own movies. And I feel like they probably could have, for the story purposes, could have just made this a hour-and-a-half movie on Peacock instead of a 3-part series. I do think this show is just too long for its own good, and the first 2 episodes drag a lot. I think the 3rd episode is by far the best of the series. But the first 2 episodes don't have tons of action. And again, I think that's the biggest problem with the show, is that it just does not compare action-wise to the John Wick franchise. There's good, like passable action scenes in this show, but there's not this one spectacular action. I think even like the best action scene is this pretty contained one in a phone booth in the 3rd episode, which I thought was really good. But really, overall, it's just not a great action piece. And the problem is it's passable, but for John Wick, that's like not good action. Because again, this John Wick franchise has top tier action in it. I just didn't feel the action was great. It wasn't bad. It was okay to good action, just not John Wick level action in the show. And overall, I think there's also just way too many characters, way too many storylines. And because they drag these runtimes to basically 90 minutes an episode, I feel like they're just stretching out these storylines and plot lines to a ridiculous amount. Winston is definitely the main focus of the show, but there's so many people a part of this team, and they each have their own B and C plot lines going on. For example, Winston teams up with a brother-sister duo of Miles and Lou. Miles is played by Hubert Point-Jour, and Lou is played by Jessica Alain, who I think is probably the best performance on the show as Lou. She's terrific. As well as they also team up with Lemmy, played by Adam Shapiro. But even when Miles and Lou have the team up, they have their whole subplot about this like dojo that their father owned and all the secrets that their father didn't tell them. You have all these people and this that are just not that interesting. You also have Jenkins, played by Ray McKinnon, who also has his own subplots. I just feel like there's a bit too much going on in this show where they got this huge team together, and I don't think any of the characters are that interesting. Now, Colin Waddell does a serviceable job. Again, he's not Ian McShane, and there isn't that charisma that Ian McShane brings, a gravitas that McShane brought to Winston in the 4 John Wick films. Waddell is very solid in the role, but he's just it's for, I don't know if it's Winston or the performance, but it's just not a captivating lead performance / character to carry this type of show. Obviously, the big headlines are Mel Gibson, who I'm just not interested in seeing and stuff anymore. Obviously, I can have my own personal bias as I am Jewish. But I talked about this when I did review that John Lasseter movie last year. When I watch a movie, that stuff just kind of goes out if I'm reviewing a new movie, because I want to have that non-bias so I can give you my genuine thoughts. And I think his performance isn't very good on the show. And I think his dialogue that he's given isn't also helping at all. He has some really cheesy lines in the second episode that just pull me right out of a pretty dramatic scene. And I feel like Mel Gibson's performance is like stuck in the 1980s for a movie, for a 3-part event that's taking itself extremely seriously. And Cormac O'Connor I don't think was a very good lead. And I think they took a big swing with Mel Gibson and swing and miss, in my opinion, with both the casting, the performance, and the writing for that character in particular. I do like Adigan as Sharon. We just didn't get a lot of him in the show as much as I think they should have. There are some good John Wick stuff that a lot of diehard fans will want to watch, like how Winston builds his relationship with the Bowery King, not Lawrence Fishburne, but that type of people, those people with the Bowery King. But that and the whole, again, the world building of the Continental is really fascinating, as it always is. We're just not in the Continental actually as much as I wanted to be in a show called the Continental. I think the KD character played by Michelle Prada, who is like this detective who we don't know why she's investigating Winston and what her personal gain is. That's another plot line that just did not need as much screen time as it was. Wasn't a very interesting character for 2.5 episodes. And while I like the reveal of why she's interested in Winston in the 3rd act of the 3rd episode, it was just dragged down by kind of just mediocre run-of-the-mill cop storyline that we just did not need. As I said, too many plot lines, too many storylines. I enjoyed some of the performances on the show. As I said, I really like Lou. She's definitely my standout of the whole cast. She brings the most emotion out of the show, and you're definitely rooting for her to make it out of this show alive. First of all, the world building is just so good that it's hard not to be at least interested in what's going on in the show. But this is not a great start to the post-John Wick franchise without Keanu. I think they could easily move forward with this show if they wanted to for a season 2, but again, I'm not sure if Winston might not be the lead character for the franchise without John Wick. So that's my thoughts on the Continental. I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars, like around a 55%, 56% for me for the Continental on Peacock. What are your thoughts? Are you a big John Wick fan? Let me know in the comment section down below. More videos coming soon. I'll see you around.